Hello, everybody.
Collaboration.
Let's just talk about how good-looking everyone is in the room.
Oh, yes, let's do
what
that.
What a good-looking audience.
Starts.
Yeah, you can clap for that. I see you.
Oh, man, cross the border and they get better looking, huh?
I guess so.
Except, no, they don't hold a candle to my wife. But anyway, let me introduce you. How about that?
And then
I'll tell them a little bit about you.
Okay.
And how about I'm going to start with now, and then I'll work my way backwards.
Okay, you have like 2 minutes to introduce me.
No. Come on, no limits. Come on. So this is Marika Siewert, and she is an actor, singer, film director, visionary. What other things can I add to this list?
I'm a mom.
You're a mom. You're a wife. You are a friend. You are an amazing human being. And Marika and I met about 16-ish years ago. I was working on a musical project, second kind of major musical I was working on, and we were looking for a specific role. And somebody that we knew that was helping with our special needs son said, "Oh, you need Marika Siewert for that role." And I said, "Marika who?" And she's a pop artist. She's got several top 40 songs out, but she's a person of faith, and she'd probably be interested if you asked her. So we reached out, and she auditioned, and I say the rest of the story is not just history, but friendship, because she did an amazing job with the role, but we just became friends. And her whole family and our family, in fact, without the Siewert family, I don't know if the Doerksen family would have made it through COVID like we did. We were like a bubble together, and then we started pivoting towards filmmaking and some of that stuff too. So what else can I say? Oh, okay, so Marika was born in, no, we won't talk about that part of your story. We'll talk about the fact that you were raised in England.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
And you were classically trained piano player and double bass. You went to the Royal Academy of Music in London stuff, and then as a teenager you emigrated to Alberta, Canada. So imagine growing up in England with all of the culture and everything, and then they arrive in little podunk Medicine Hat, Alberta.
I know.
Okay, how many of you have been to Medicine Hat?
What?
Look, there's a few of you in the room.
First of all, tell me later. Just kidding. I love Medicine Hat.
Oh my gosh.
Mostly.
And so she spent her teen years in Medicine Hat, and then met her hubby, Stacy, who's also here, and here we are.
Thanks. That was a good intro.
Well,
My turn?
Okay, sorry. I'll shut up.
So this is Brian Doerksen. Who knows who Brian is? Oh, you have fans here. Most of you will know that Brian is an incredible songwriter, singer, worship leader, recording artist. Maybe you do, maybe you don't know that he has written 2 musicals, full-length musicals, The Father's House. Do any of you guys remember Father's House? Wait, what? Okay. A whole new audience for Father's House. Google it later. And on top of being an incredible friend and really family these days, he is a filmmaker. He's a storyteller, an encourager, a teacher. Has an amazing course called Unlocking Your Songs, where he basically teaches songwriters to songwrite. And we have been friends now for 16-ish years, and I would say also he's been a huge mentor to me in my life. I started in pop music, and partly because when I moved to Medicine Hat, Alberta, there were no people that looked like me even doing Christian music in Canada where I was, and I really felt like, I really just asked God. I'm like, God, I need people that I can learn from and that would encourage me. And even though we've done a lot of life together, but it was really Brian's songs that actually started my sort of trajectory in music. And even though I was doing pop music, all the foundation of my music was really rooted in singing love over people. And as I've gotten to know Brian, that's really something I've learned, that was his heart for singing love over people in the church circles as well. And so now we get to work together. We've done a lot of things together. And part of the reason why I wanted us to both do this workshop together is because I think in the church, especially in church circles, we're often limited as artists in our sort of worship leading sort of arena, music, maybe our Christmas sort of holiday things. But I feel like one thing that we have learned, and we've really learned doing it together, is really sort of dreaming together in the art that we dream up, and that we sort of make things up as we go. I'm learning. What's been incredible for me is to be able to bounce ideas off Brian and him go, yeah, we could do that, or maybe we should try this instead. And I think because as believers, we're inspired by our Creator. And it's always been something for me that I've always believed, that we should be leading culture with our creations, with our art, and also creating excellent art. So we're here to just share kind of some of the projects that we're doing, some of the things we're doing. Brian's going to share a little bit about collaborating and songwriting, if any of you are interested in that. But we also want to hear from you. If you have questions, please feel free to put up your hand. We sort of have an incredible privilege that we get to work in film, in music, in church, outside of church, teaching songwriters of all different genres, not just necessarily worship genres. And I know that, in a room with this many people, there are things in your heart that I feel like God has planted in your heart, whether you're walking in them or whether you feel like you've never been able to walk in them yet. I want to give you permission today to believe that things are possible for you wherever you're at. Because the coolest thing about art is it really has no age. I know we age, but you can really start something at any time in your life. And so I want to encourage you today, ask us questions. You get us for like an hour. And so stick your hand up, we'll call you out.
Well, and just jumping off of that point, because I think you talk about age and you talk about dreaming, and I know COVID was a beast.
Yes, it was.
It hit me in certain ways that I wasn't expecting. It was like we had, the year 2020 was going to be a really important year for concerts and touring for me in my home country of Canada. And we had, between that and Europe, we had 40 concerts that were canceled. And I remember feeling, in the months after the whole lockdown and all of that stuff started, well, maybe this is a sign, maybe I'm done. I'm in my mid-50s. It's time for the next generation to take the baton. And I remember your response was very, you were just very much like, oh no, this is gonna pass and you're not done, and why don't we try? And then you just started, being you, dreaming up things. Well, we could do this, we could do that.
No, that was you who did that.
No, hang on a second.
No, it was because, the whole world shut down and I watched Brian go to work.
But you don't understand. I wasn't ready to go to work. I wasn't ready to pivot until, in some ways, you gave me some permission, or you gave me some encouragement to do that, and also to stop thinking about it in terms of one type of creativity. Like when we, you get in a groove with something, right? You've done a certain thing. Okay, I'm fill in the blanks. I'm the worship leader at such and such a church, and this is what I do. And I think what you're getting at, and what I wanted to really underline, is that don't limit your future, what you're going to do, by what you've done in the past. Stay open, stay curious. like, like when I was younger, I mean, I just was so scared of having to be in front of people and talk. And I had all these limits that I placed on myself, that if I would have stayed listening to those limits, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't have done most of the things. And I thought, things like filmmaking were for other people, right? And now here we are, we're, working on a full-fledged movie where all I'm saying is you just don't know where the trail will lead, but you have to keep on walking. And yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so how do you find your people to collaborate with?
How do you find your people? First of all, I would like to ask, how many of you out there right now are collaborating in some way in your art? Okay, great. That's really great. How do you find your people? That's a good question. I think the one thing, and I actually learned this from you and Joyce, and the biggest thing that I've learned in finding your people, especially when it comes to your music or to your art and your creativity, is to be curious and to stay curious. I think oftentimes as believers, we can stay in our circles of the things that we know and the people that we know. And I don't want to say we're scared to step out of that, but I think there is a little bit of fear of the unknown, of what's out there. And I would encourage you all, and I do this every year with my kids and my family. Every year on New Year's Eve, we put together sort of vision boards and dream boards. Do you guys know what those are? Yeah, and so it's kind of something that I did since I was young, but we have been teaching our kids to do it. And I kid you not, every year, I'm going to say 80 or 90%, if not 100% of those things happen. And I think part of it is because I'm purposing and I'm being intentional to write those things on that board. The Bible says, put your vision before you. And it's so true. And I think when those things, and you see it, and wherever you want to put it, like I used to write on my wall at home. My mom didn't really like that very much, but I needed to get up and go, oh, I'm going to do that, this year. And the cool thing about artists is you can do it however you want. Some people, Brian does it with lists. He's got lists, and I like his lists. We call him Long Email Doerksen, because he writes really long. Am I telling you secrets? I'm just joking. No, but he's very much a words person, whereas I'm very much like, I will rip pictures out of magazines and then make this huge collage on my wall. And so however you want to do it. But I think there's something about it, and I don't want to be all cliche, but I really do believe that God brings people into your life for that goal. And so, and I kind of have this thing, and it's not I don't mean it to scare you, but I think for me, it takes me about, honestly, 2 to 3 years for me to decide if I'm going to walk with somebody in that goal. Because when you have something that God's given you that looks kind of, fabulous, it's easy for people to jump on board and be like, I want to be a part of that. I want to be on board. But then when it starts to get hard, those people peace out real quick. And so I would say the number one thing is just start with relationship. And one of the things that I've learned, again, from you guys, is that I think so many things can be learned over sharing a meal. And I think, especially in this day and age, and for my generation and younger, that is something that we need to start teaching again, is to just share meals with each other, get to know each other, ask questions, share your dreams and your visions, and not with everybody, but you'll know when you're supposed to share it with, and start walking together in life. And I think that's probably the biggest way that I find my people. How about you?
Well, yeah, and that's, it sparks a number of things, and one is that, finding our people to collaborate with. You're not necessarily looking for people that are like you. They'll be very different in gift mix and appearance, but underneath the surface, they'll have some you'll have deep shared values, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about, sharing a meal where you just spend some time finding, it's almost like it's not, at that point, it's not about finding out what they can accomplish or do. You're trying to find out a little bit more about what their deep values are, right? Like
that's right.
What are things because you and I are very different in a number of ways.
Like I have hair and you sort of have hair.
Okay. You have to go low there. Oh, yeah.
Carry on.
But you say, I love words, and I spend a lot of time wrestling with words, and you're more of a pictures person. You're more, in our co-writing relationship, you're a bit more of a melody person. So all that to say is finding your people, don't confuse the your with people that are just like you.
Yeah, that's right.
Like if you're going to collaborate, you need all the different gifts, in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, being able to find people that you can trust to challenge you.
Yes. That right there, because especially if you're going to co-write a song, but if you're also going to work on something major together, you need the safety and the trust to say, I don't think that's a good idea, and here's why I don't think that's a good idea. But it is, because we were talking about collaboration and finding your people, it's so easy just to do it yourself in some ways.
Yep. But
when we do things just ourselves, often they don't resonate in the same way. I remember a few years ago, Paul McCartney from the Beatles put out a new album, and I go all excited, I'll check it out, I put it on, and I just could not stand listening to it. He played every instrument, he sang every harmony, he sang every line, and after a couple of songs, I couldn't listen to it. It was like, no idea what his intention was or what the story was behind it, but it was like, I don't even know. Ego's not the right word, because I don't think he didn't have anything to prove. But what made me so sad about it was at that stage of his career, he was creating art by himself.
Right, yeah.
And the thing was, the magic of the Beatles was the magic of the four of them, each bringing their different perspectives and their melodies and their rhythms and their personalities and making one sound. And it just reminded me again of how important it is in our world that we collaborate in a way where we share our strengths, we shore up each other's weaknesses in a way that the creative projects that we end up with don't just reflect one person's likes and personalities. They actually reflect something that's forged in, even at times, in disagreement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think too, maybe you guys have heard the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think also, something that we have, and it's almost been sort of overemphasized in churches, everyone wants to be the eagle, like the lone eagle, like this is where God is taking me, and, like that's, something special. And I think we just need to keep learning how to work together, and to listen to each other. And, it's something, obviously when we're in church leadership, even music leadership, creative leadership, there's this idea that everyone's looking to us, so we have to sort of uphold this standard of who we are. When, I just did an interview in Toronto, and they're like, what's a takeaway, I think, of your career, both in music and film? And I said, you know what, for me, I have mentors, but I have mentors that are older than me, and I have mentors that are younger than me. And I think it's super important to continue to learn from all the generations. It's something, I guess, in North America especially, we're not really great at honoring our elders. They get to a certain age, they're not on the worship team anymore. They're not necessarily preaching, they're sitting listening to the preachers is, pop culture is terrible for this. You got a few of the ones that stay in there, but for the most part, it's about the younger and the cooler. Whereas I think that we as creatives, I'm way more wise than I was when I was a 20-year-old pop singer. And it was a great era for me. I wouldn't be here today without it. But the things that I know now at my age, but also the things that I'm learning, my 17-year-old daughter Zoe comes on tour with us, and it is so special to have her on tour. And then we have Brian's dad, Harry, who is 88, on our screen, and we have this. It's one of my favorite things about our tours is that we have all generations represented, and that's something that I want to just encourage you to do is not write off anybody at any age.
Yeah, that's great. Like mentoring, being mentored is ageless. In other words, again, it's about curiosity. Like
Yeah.
I can be mentored by a 17-year-old in something.
Yeah.
Just like I can be mentored by, people my dad's age who are in their 80s and peers. It's that sense of leaning in and learning from everybody and getting those little shifts in artistic expression that happen in different places and in different ages. So it just nudges things in a way that is fresh and unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want you to talk, Brian, about, one of the things that we've learned together is obviously now we actually make films together. So we've done a Christmas special, an Easter special, another Christmas special, Father's House special. And this isn't something that we all set out to do, that we were like, it was just COVID happened. No one was touring. We were kind of sitting there, probably eating Joyce's good food and going, what do we do now? And I want you to talk a bit about collaboration in song, because I think it also applies to all the other things creatively. And creating sort of that safe space, how we've done it together, and how to do it in a place that you can thrive.
That was a big question, Marika.
I know, but you're good at this.
Okay, well, then you make sure that you interrupt me when I'm not going down the path that you're thinking of with this question. But we could definitely have a conversation about collaborating on songs and collaborating on projects. And again, before I jump into songs, this whole film thing, it was because you have experience and come from that world that we were friends and collaborating that gave me confidence to go, I have some ideas, but I have no idea if they're any good. So let's try this. And that's how we got into it. And now I go, we live in a visual world. We live in a world where we are longing for, let's just say, content that is filled with love and redemption, but is still true to our story. And so, yeah, it's been a journey. Okay, songs. Let me say this to start with about creative collaboration, and something that just hit me even yesterday as I was thinking about this session, that as people of faith and people who love God and love Scripture, when we sing something from Scripture, we are collaborating with the person who wrote that Scripture in a way that is so profound and so beautiful. Like when we take a psalm, the 23rd Psalm or 139th Psalm or 42nd Psalm, and on it goes, and we're inspired by those words, and then we start to sing them in our way. Like, isn't it interesting, of course, in Scripture, there's no music recorded, right? Only the words are preserved. But when we take those words, like I went through a period of, I call it my long winter of wordlessness, where we went through a conflict and I came out the other side and I'd lost my words. I couldn't write songs for about 5 years. And so, but I could still open the Psalms and read something in the Psalms, relate to it, and then start to sing it. So there's like this sense of, so even You talk about being mentored by somebody young, somebody old, somebody our same age. Like every time we do this with something in the scriptures, we are being mentored by the person who wrote that. And obviously, often we say, well, that's the word of God. But sometimes I think, well, by saying, well, that's the word of God, we actually don't think about the actual person who wrote that psalm, who wrote that narrative, who wrote that epistle, who came from a specific place, who went through a certain set of circumstances and were inspired to write those words. And when we start singing those words, we are collaborating with somebody who's gone before us. It's the same, well, it's different, but when my dad and I made the hymns album, I said to my dad, I want to do this with you. Partly, I want to sing the songs, the hymns that are written over the last several hundred years, because I want the people who went before us, the people who wrote those hymns, to actually, in a sense, know that they're still with us. And I'm now, by creating a new arrangement of it as well, or creating a new arrangement of What a Friend or whatever, I'm saying their creative collaboration still matters, and now they're collaborating with me and I'm with them. And it's this deep sense. And again, I think, it's like artists, we can get in this kind of solo funk where we are just trying to make our own thing, but something happens when we open up our spirit, to collaborate. So
you've done this well, because ever since I've known you and before I've known you, you were in an environment where you were constantly raising up other songwriters.
Yeah.
And challenging them and making, refining songs. So tell me, well, I want you actually to tell the audience, because what I love when you are collaborating with songs, the right way to do it, in a way that's safe.
Yeah.
In a way that challenges, but also in a way that empowers.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know. I was just thinking about that. Even like last week, I was doing this with somebody who's incredibly well respected as an author and has music out, but isn't used to co-writing and collaborating in this way. And I'm like going, I was just helping them dream, and then saying, okay, now how would you say this? Put those words in your mouth. What is your musical melodic mother tongue, and what would it sound like?
Yeah, that's right? What I love when you say
right.
That.
So don't like find that mother tongue, that way that you would express it. And as soon as, and I guess my job as a mentor or as an encourager has been over the years, whether it was with Terry last week or with Brenton Brown and Catherine Scott when I was mentoring them back in the UK days, I was always just listening for authenticity, listening for when it felt like I heard their soul, when I felt like I heard their signature in song, and I went, there. Okay, more of that. And then less of, that sounds imitative, more of that, and just keep trying to encourage them that, because, and I think everyone who is creative and who is in a creative calling, we all feel afraid that which we instinctually like and want to create has too many flaws. Right. So,
do you think, though, that's partly because of what sort of the industry has given us this sort of like, if you're not here, then don't necessarily...
Well, and we are listening to fully produced, arranged songs over and over and over again. And then we go to start creating something, and it feels so pathetic.
Oh, but
It
how
doesn't
many?
sound like that
Right.
fully produced, fully arranged song when it starts.
But how many of that stops you? Like, how many out there, honestly, I want to ask, like, how many of you sometimes go, I want to do this, but then you hear something, you see something, and like, I could never do that, so you stop. How many? Hands up. Yeah, I'm still like, I don't even call myself a songwriter. I don't even feel like a songwriter half the time. No, but I just want to say that that's the hardest thing for me as a creative, is watching what's being put out there. I'm talking Christian films, I'm talking Christian music, worship music. Like there's such a small group of people that control that entire industry, but that is dictating to believers all over the world what art looks like.
Yeah.
And it just shouldn't be. And so I'm terrible with numbers. I'm gonna say like 100 and some people, I don't know, 75, I don't know how many people are in here, but, and each one of you has something in you to give to the world. And when I encourage artists, I would always ask, because people come up to me all the time and are like, well, I want to be a singer, I want to be a recording artist, I want to be a filmmaker. And, one of my first questions is, how much time do you spend doing your art, doing your work? And oftentimes, everyone's got the dream, but people don't necessarily want to put the work in. And I know Brian would say the same thing with songwriting. It's like everyone wants to be a songwriter. We talk about how God gives you seeds, and everyone's got the seeds, but no one wants to put in the time to watch that seed grow. Yeah. And I think with artists, that's the difference between artists who get their stuff done and artists who just want to be artists, is that it's hard being an artist, which is why you have fewer people doing it than want to do it. And I just want to encourage you that in a world that we are infiltrated more than ever before with TikTok and Instagram, and we've become a world of content, not a world of art. And I think that as believers, we need to get back to what Creator is saying to us and what we should be creating. And honestly, Brian and I have both had careers, incredible careers, doing this alone. And as amazing it has been to see where God has taken us and the things that we have done, I can honestly say that I've never been as happy as doing what we do together. We've created tours together, we create films, and honestly, it's really, at the end of the day, people ask me what my favorite thing is, and my favorite thing is literally going back home and having meals with our families together and just celebrating life together. And I think if you can create that balance of your art and your relationships, you will soar beyond what you even think is possible. And I just wanted to encourage you with that, because I know a lot of people get stumped or stuck because they don't feel like they're at the level of what it looks like the art is being put out there. But I guarantee you, if you choose to put in the work, to to really, really go through the trenches, I know without a shadow of a doubt that God will bless it and point you in those directions. And really seek out where you feel like God is asking you to go, because sometimes people will come to me and say, well, I want to be a singer, but I'm like, yeah, but, are you called to the church? Are you called to, rock music? Are you called to creating songs for the seniors' homes? It's not just all about being on the big stages, doing the big things. And every single one of you has something in you for a specific time and for a specific intention. And also, don't limit yourself to just that one seed, because, as I said, we sit here and we both started out as songwriter. Well, it's not that I ever said, oh God, I want to be a songwriter. I still don't really think I'm a songwriter, even though I write songs. But what I do think is that when you are always listening to the whispers, you are listening to the whispers. And I think for me and my family, and I know this for Brian and his family too, is that when you're walking and listening, you go with the whispers and you go where God tells you, and then you end up filmmaking and making movies and being at CMS. And I think it's we're not, I guess in a world of technology, we're listening less and less these days. And go for walks in the trees and along the ocean and keep listening. So I don't know, I was going off on a rabbit trail with it, but
it's good. It's a good trail. I was going to say, you talked about a seed before, and I want to say too that there's the two sides to this work, and one is using our imagination to literally imagine what isn't. What is it when you survey your landscape in your world? Where are the gaps? Where are the things that you go, it would be beautiful if we had fill in the blank. It would be beautiful if we had songs about this, or it would be beautiful if we had an annual event that did this, or whatever that creative, whatever your imagination is, you're noticing something that isn't, and you're dreaming it, you're imagining it being filled with something that you're involved with creating. I think that's so important. And then it's this thing about, you say like most of these things start as seeds and require, you don't get a fruitful tree from a seed quickly. It takes time, it takes staying with it. It takes leaning into, to use that metaphor, you learn what it means to be an arborist. You learn how to care for this growing tree. You learn how to feed it, how to protect it, how to, what will make it live, what will make it fruitful. And so again, it's like, and you learn the craft of whatever it is. I'm very passionate about teaching people on the craft of songwriting, but there's other, there's a craft of filmmaking, there's a craft of, storytelling and all of those things. And it's that combination of imagination, imagining what isn't, filling it in your dream, in your imagination, and then committing to the long obedience in the same direction, committing what it's going to take in order to get to that point. And we're working on a Christmas movie musical together. We've co-written the songs. Marika's the lead writer. I've contributed bits to the script, and now it's out with some producers. And I just can't almost fathom at times, I think, when I work on a new album, let's say, of songs, I can spend a couple of years and I'll write 40 songs, and then I'll whittle it down to 10 to 12, and then I'll start arranging and recording. So it's a several year process. But movie making is at another level, right? Because it's kind of like the album, but it's got all these other layers. So you've got to have you also have to have a lot of patience.
Yeah, well, actually, that's a good example that you brought up, because with this movie, so just a little bit of a backstory. About 5 years ago, I met a producer. Do you guys know the show When Calls the Heart? Yeah. So it was one of the writers and the producers of that show, and we became good friends. And he basically I asked him, because I love Christmas. I love Christmas.
She loves Christmas.
Yes, I do. And so I always wanted to write music for a Christmas movie, like a Hallmark Christmas movie. And so I was like, John, his name was John Tinker, and I said, John, can you help me? Can you write, one of your Christmas movies? I just want to write the music for it. And he's like, Marika, why don't you just write the movie? I was like, I don't write movies, John, but thanks. But he proceeded to then mentor me in how to write a Hallmark movie, because we all know they're all kind of the same, sort of. Sorry, Hallmark. I love you, Hallmark, if you're watching. No, I love Hallmark movies, but they are, they have this formula, but it works. And you know what the coolest thing I learned about Hallmark movies is that they were made to have content so that it never, when veterans who have been in wars came home for Christmas or were watching these movies overseas, there was nothing triggering to them that they could just enjoy a movie and have peace throughout that movie. And I thought that was the coolest thing I learned about Hallmark. And it's probably why I like it too, because I have a bit of an ADHD brain that's always going, and the only thing that shuts it off, literally Hallmark movies. So, but anyways, I have this I have this affinity for Hallmark movies. But anyways, through this process, and it was about 3 years I was starting to write this script, and I think COVID hit, the big C. And I just got really discouraged, and I was like, I really don't know how to finish it. And, I think that's probably, we did a couple of musical special event films in between there, and that was when actually I said to Brian, I'm like, can we just finish this together? And I wouldn't have finished it without you. Maybe I've never told you that before, but because I just was stuck. And then Brian's like, well, why don't we just start writing some of the songs? And so I remember for, a couple weeks at a time, Brian does this thing, if you didn't know, but he makes a weekly songwriting appointment with himself. And you can't budge that. Like, someone had better be dying in the house to budge that, that appointment. But it's something that I really admired about Brian, that he always took the time out on his Friday mornings to do a songwriting appointment. And so he let me join a few of those, and we started writing these Christmas songs. And it was the spark of those Christmas songs that ended up allowing me to finish the rest of the script. And it took 5 years, so it wasn't like a short time. But then the second that script was finished, almost, I'm gonna say a week or two later, a producer friend of mine who does a lot of the Hallmark movies asked me to train as a director on one of the movie. It's called the Movie of the Week. Like the 2-hour like Lifetime Hallmark movies. And then I really started directing and learning how to direct, and it really set up the trajectory of where we are now, shopping this movie to get on the screen. And so I think to me it was sort of the ultimate sort of power of collaboration, because I don't know if I would have finished it, because I was just in a place of a discouragement. And Brian and I have these moments where, he's discouraged and I go, okay, no, we're like, let's just keep going. And I'm the same, like I'll be discouraged and you probably don't even know that you're doing it, but you'll do something, or like, oh, let's go sing, or, plan across the world tours together, and, and because we know each other so well, and you know what, you are going to get in collaborations that you don't know people as well as perhaps we do, but you know when it's a safe place to be vulnerable and to be able to create, and don't be scared of that. And I think it's in those times where it gets hard that having a partner or having several collaborative partners keeps you going in your art. So
maybe just some may ask, like, well, so how do you pick somebody, or with whom do you co-write, or whom do you collaborate? And if I'm thinking about it, let's say in terms of songs, I'll just say a couple of things, a couple of tips. Don't try and co-write and collaborate with strangers that you don't know. In other words, but you want to because they're famous or they're well-known. Oh, I'd love to collaborate with,
right.
Whatever. Like, honestly, over the years, and I've got sent stuff, people send me, God gave me this song, and I think God told me that you're going to finish it.
No. I didn't do that, did I?
No, you didn't do that. It's not going to happen. So the way I go, it's so funny because I can think of 20 years ago, I thought, oh, I would love to write, some songs for a movie. But that's, I didn't then, go, okay, let me see. George Lucas or, famous directors. I'll just write these, No, I just carried on writing songs from my little local church, trying this, taking risks, not knowing that becoming friends with you would eventually lead years later to you saying, hey, here's this scene in the script I'm writing. Let's write a song about these two characters having this conversation. And all of a sudden, there I am, years later, in a completely different way, but in a relationally rooted way, I'm writing a song for a movie. Maybe that will never be heard. Maybe it'll be heard by millions. I have no control over that. All it's to say is, I think we have to trust the process, that if we just keep in motion again, and I'm learning this too. It's like, and I'm 58 now. I'm moving a little slower than I was when I was 38, but I'm still in motion. I'm still moving. I'm still trying. I'm still taking risks. I'm still dreaming. And while I'm in motion, other people who are in motion can draw alongside you for whatever serendipitous reason.
Right, yeah.
And you can make this connection even as you're passing through an airport or as you're doing whatever. You can meet somebody and all of a sudden there's a spark of creativity that can go somewhere. Like so as an example, about a little less than a year ago, I taught a songwriting workshop in Phoenix, Arizona for about 30 people, and I'm just there. I'm just trying to be faithful. I knew a guy at the church, so I do it, and I see this couple in the front row, and I'm like, I think I know this couple, but anyway, somebody introduces me, and it turns out it's Terry Wildman, who wrote the First Nations version of the New Testament. It's such a beautiful translation.
Which is awesome, by the way.
Oh my!
You want to learn about creator and creation?
Oh my
go
goodness.
get Terry's. Do any of you know that? Yeah, I see some ads.
Yeah, the First Nations version of the New Testament is one of the most phenomenal things I have read in years. It's like a portal.
Well, can I just say something about that?
Yeah.
So we just spoke at this music industry thing in Canada, and in Canada, I don't know if you do it here, but in Canada, we're very big on like land acknowledgement and really restoring that in our country. And Terry in this version, they refer to God as creator, and they refer to Jesus as creator sets free.
Yeah.
And you talk about that like as artists and as creatives, creator sets free.
Oh,
and I'm like,
so
I've always been a huge believer that the artists in the church can change the world. I still think that now. I thought it when I was young, but I even believe it more now. But carry that with you, because I know sometimes we get in our boxes of church and our boxes of what creativity looks like in the church. Just go back to Terry's version and creator sets free.
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's like, because in the version it's like, and Jesus says, and creator sets free says, blessed are the peacemaker, whatever it is. And you're just like, every time I hear it and read, I go, that's it. Right there. That's it.
Totally.
Anyway, so Terry and Darlene are sitting in the front row, and the break happens, and somebody introduces me to him, and my eyes get so wide. You're the Terry Wildman, the guy behind the First Nations version? My daughter is huge fan of that version. She's studying, getting her master's degree. She has a very big heart for First Nations and Indigenous issues. Anyway, so I invite him. Well, if you're ever up in the Pacific Northwest, come on up to our place in Abbotsford. So sure enough, in the summer, he comes out, and there we are, and we start co-writing a song together. And I'm so excited about this. And I was talk about creative collaboration. Like, it was just I was just in motion, trying to serve, teaching a workshop. I meet a guy, we end up becoming friends, and now we're working on songs together. He's dreaming up songs for for First Nations version, Psalms and Proverbs, gets published next year. He's given me, Terry's let me, look at what he's doing, and oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it's so cool. So
yeah, it's so cool.
So with whom do we collaborate? With whom do we co-write? Those, not strangers, but maybe some people who were strangers, and they get brought into your life and they become friends, and all of a sudden you're co-writing with somebody you never dreamed of you would co-write. Because I would have think like Terry Wildman, like he's like the bomb, like he's like, how would I ever get in touch with Terry Wildman? And there, all of a sudden, there we are, yeah, and it's a really important, a word of caution, don't go up to somebody and say, God has told me that we are going to collaborate
Preach that.
together.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
That's not how it works. and it's not going to open the door, it's going to close the door.
Yeah.
Just be a normal human being. Love people, serve people, be open, be curious, ask them about their story and see where it goes. You know, like sometimes I think we're a weird bunch.
Yeah, or take a breath, you know? Like, I know that God can say things like that, but like, are you sure, or was that the pasta the night before? Like, just, you know, take a breath, because I don't want to discredit also those whispers, because there are people,
Well,
you know, but...
Well, treasure them in your heart.
Treasure, exactly.
I think that says that somewhere in Scripture. You hear that kind of whisper, treasure it in your heart.
Treasured in your heart.
See what happens.
Absolutely, exactly.
So say something else practically about this. So say you've got somebody who you're feeling this stirring to try something, whatever it is, you know, well then walk it out. Like, you know, when we're talking songs, I always say, well, bring something to the table, you know, set up a meeting and say, hey, let's get together and try and collaborate on something. Show up with an idea. Like, oh, I've got this line that I really feels like the beginning of a song. Or, oh, I really think we should have a song that says fill in the blank. And then just see what sparks. In other words, come with something, but be willing, and here's the dangerous part, to have it go in a completely different direction. Sometimes, and once you're in the rhythm of it, once you're rolling with somebody, you can literally show up with nothing and just look at each other and go, what's going on? What's sparking today? And one person can walk over to the piano and start playing a melody and go, oh, you know, play that again. That's a great melody. And then away you go. And pretty soon, 2 hours later, you have a draft. I mean, it's so amazing. Think about it. 2 hours later, something exists that didn't exist 2 hours before.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because oftentimes we think, oh, I don't have anything to bring, so I'm not going to make the appointment.
Yeah. Well, no, no, yeah, I mean...
But make the appointment is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Don't wait for that, like... Because I think oftentimes we go, okay, God, bring me someone to do this. I've heard it even this weekend, like, well, what do we do if we don't have that? Start it. You are all here, so I know you're all leaders. I'm telling you now, if you don't know. You're all leaders. Start it yourself, right? We go, okay, God, like, please bring me my favorite songwriter. Do you know that I prayed for a songwriting mentor for probably 25 years? I'm not even kidding. I met Matt Redman when I was 16, and I asked Matt, I'm like, hey, Matt, how did you know, because he had songwriting mentors. And I was like, how did you find your songwriting mentor? And he's like, oh, you just pray. And I was like, that's the stupidest answer I've ever heard. Like, I love you, Matt Redman. I love all Matt Redman songs. Matt, if you're watching, love you. But like, no, I just thought as a kid, like as a young person that was like, I just want someone to help me. There wasn't, it was just me. And so I just had to start. And God brought me the best one. But
you know, he was right, though.
No, I know he was right. I know he's right, but I'm just saying it might not happen right away. So don't wait for it to happen. Start it, because I think had I not started, we would have never gotten to this place.
Yes.
And we wouldn't have wrote anything, because I wouldn't have been writing, because I never started.
Yeah.
So, I know he was right.
Because every one of us in this room feel like we don't have totally what it takes. We wanted to be mentored, but we weren't mentored. We fill in all of those blanks. Every single one of us in this room feel that way. But still do what she just said. But no, just get in motion.
That's right, yeah.
Just start with what you have. What are the dreams that you already have? What are the song ideas, the little fragments, the little things you can start bringing to the table and seeing God multiply them? And it's amazing what getting in motion that way will do.
Yeah, and I also would encourage you, revisit the things that maybe the people that weren't the safest in your life tried to discourage you to do. And I mean that with everything in me, because oftentimes we will share something that we want to do or something that we feel like God's given us this seed of creativity.
Yeah.
And someone will say to you, I don't think that's a good idea. Or maybe that's not for right now, or maybe that's not for our congregation or our circles. So you stopped. But I would encourage you to revisit. And oftentimes I find it's things that you used to dream up when you were a child. You know, we talk about childlike faith. I feel like we keep each other sort of childlike, and we keep each other dreaming. And I would encourage you to revisit some things that maybe you really wanted to do that you thought you couldn't, but now you're like, I want to try.
Yeah, it's almost like the inner critic and even some of the outer critics that you have encountered can even be hints of the trail you're meant to walk.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating thought, and I think it rings true because we were taking a risk in sharing maybe a bit of a dream that then gets kind of, you know, but actually that is still there. It's just we've got to have the courage to step past the resistance of our inner critic and the resistance of other people who have been negative and believe that it's possible.
Yeah, because it is.
It is. And you have to understand, when I was a teenager, my greatest fear was to get up in front of people and talk. I'm a shy, introverted person by nature. I'm terrified of groups of people, in a sense. And to be renewed now as an introvert, you know, I don't go to like lots of like social things and parties because they drain me. But, you know, it's like I could have confused that part of my personality with then that means that disqualifies me from writing songs or being a singer or doing some touring or whatever. And I had to push through that, and I still have to push through it because I still struggle with some of those basic feelings and fears, but I just choose to not stay there, but to keep pressing through that membrane of fear, through that thing that just keeps on trying to, it's like, oh, I shared that idea and they were discouraged, they were dismissive of it, you know?
Right.
And then I go, well, what am I going to do now?
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, something I learned when I was younger is a friend used to tell me, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I think as you start to embark on creative endeavors that are actually, they may even seem larger than life for your typical circle of friends, just find new friends. Honestly, like, you know, your inner circle will get smaller, but I'm telling you, you'll be happier because you're like living your dreams.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, there's been some people in my world that are upset about our creative collaboration together.
Yeah, I know.
And partly because I don't even want to conjecture.
Because I'm so cool and they want to be my friend too.
Yeah,
so.
no, but it's just like, and again, it's just so easy to maybe look from a little bit of a distance and jump to conclusions. What it is that each of us are called to do is to, you know, like listen to those dreams, listen to the whispers of God, and then take the risk. We are like 2 minutes away. Can you believe it, from being out of time?
I can, because we can talk.
We can chat. I would love it. There's a couple of questions. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so she's asking, I'll repeat it just for the sake of the stream, is there ever too much of a good thing as far as how many people are collaborating? 2 people, 10 people? I'll let you start.
You start, okay. Well, I think it depends on the project. For a song, I am also very much an introvert. So I've been in rooms where there's 6 or 7 songwriters, that scares me completely because it's 6 people that I don't know. I choose as a songwriter to get to know my songwriters before I start songwriting. On a film set, however, as a director, there are 100 people on that set that I have to collaborate with, and so when you're taking on a bit of a bigger project, so say you're doing even a church musical for Christmas, you may have a team of 10 or a team of 20. So, to answer your question, it's very dependent on what that specific project is. Yeah.
Okay, so songwriting for your church is the specific. I would say, a great range is, 2 to 4 or 5, But again, you can also have all of those people writing their own songs and then choosing at certain points to collaborate together. Marika and I collaborated on a special song that nobody in the world has heard yet. I'm talking about, which one I'm talking about, the LS, with John and Emma from England. And, so there was 4 of us working on this song, though I was trying to have a nap and at this songwriting retreat, and these 2 Brits were at the piano writing a song, and Marika is texting me Doerksen, get up. This is important, So anyway, and I was, kind of annoyed at her at first for, getting me out of my nap.
And he doesn't always say yes. I can text him. He sometimes will say no.
But by the time I got over there, I realized, this is special, and they need some help. And it's actually the kind of help that I'm primed to give. And so then we ended up collaborating on that with 4 people. Yeah. And what's really interesting about that is in a sense, you get the different people's histories and perspectives. And so now I feel like the song has been vetted by us 4. It's a great start,
Yeah. And I'm going to say, when you get to that kind of number, have curious people.
Yeah.
Not one person that wants to take over the whole song.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Okay, one last question. Any last questions, comments? Right here. Yeah.
It's a little bit negative, but can you describe a collaboration maybe that didn't go anywhere and why you knew it wasn't going anywhere?
Oh man, I've had multiple people that I tried to songwrite, and I just realized shortly into the process, we are completely incompatible. They want to write in a certain direction with a certain set of values. I'm wanting to write this kind of song from the heart, and I had to just kind of be polite and just completely let it go, not follow it up, and just and they are successful songwriters, but I recognize that we are just, so definitely I've experienced that.
Which I don't think is a negative thing, by the way.
No.
I think that's just part of the songwriting journey, is you might try and get in songwriting circles and it not work, or not songwriting circles, but songwriting collaborations that may not work. I think it helps you refine what kind of songwriter you want to be. So.
Yeah, and I learned from that. I have to be a little bit more careful and selective about who I say yes to, because that's it. As a sensitive person, it took me a little bit to recover from, because I felt bad about it. So I go to just, can we just pray a short prayer of blessing over them and us? Father, thank you for every daughter and son in this room that is leaning into the art of collaboration, the calling, the creative act, the creative life. Thank you for all the seeds that are in the soil of these dear people's hearts. And I pray that those seeds would be nourished, watered, and grow to bear much fruit. And may they continue to dream and imagine those places of need in our world being filled with beautiful, loving, caring, creative acts, projects, songs, musicals, movies, all types of creative expression. So the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Shalom. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.